welcome, guys. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to this panel. We're glad to have you here. I'd like to start with, I know that Rob introduced you a bit, but it would be great if we could start with a short round of introductions. Let's maybe start with Martin, because you have the microphone already. So please tell us more about you and the company that you represent.
Yeah, thanks first for having me here. Rob did a great job introducing the punchlines. I'm passionate about building partnerships. I strongly believe in long-term relationships. I'm married for more than 20 years. So personally, as business, I'm always got mad if I worked in startup companies who are trying to hit a quota and they accepted deals on the 28th of December just because it was the 28th of December. They wouldn't have accepted any deal on the 2nd of January. So my goal was bringing in partnerships, and I strongly believe in the power of them, the power of making the growth more sustainable, more efficient, and just helping them to achieve the company goals. And there's statistics out there that 80% of partnerships in startups fail, and that just drives me crazy. And I'm on a mission to bring it down to 70, which is still way too much, but you need to start somewhere.
Wonderful, thank you. Anna?
I'm Barnacka, and I'm CEO founder of MindMics. Krakow is very close to my heart. I did my master thesis here, so I have a lot of memories close to the river that I will not mention during the panel, maybe after. And I left after my master to do double PhD, one in astronomy and second one in physics. And after that, I moved to the US. Actually, I'm coming to the US from the US today, but not today, but the last few weeks. But we also have a part of our company is here in Krakow. And when we talk about Krakow being very innovative, that's absolutely true. Our technology is actually was a lot of fancy words about our technology, but on the high level, what we have actually, this is our product. And if you ever saw Star Trek and how the health monitoring was done on Star Trek, we already have the technology that in the non-invasive way, through the ear, when you listen to music, can monitor all of your organs, starting with the heart. So if you want to listen more about our technology, I think I have at least few team members here as well. They are somewhere here. That's about us. So basically, we already built the Star Trek for health monitoring. And our team, part of the team is in Krakow, and the other one is in the US. So we already bring that connection, and I'm happy to share more about our journey.
Wonderful. Simon?
Hi, everyone. So I'm a local here. So some of you that know me by my Polish name, which is Przemek or Przemysław, but I'll make it easy for the English-speaking guys. So yeah, I'm Simon.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I'm here with NorthStar Consulting, and what I do there is I help tech companies increase sales efficiency, build sales strategies, and just get traction. This is what I've been doing for around 10 years now, and I've been 20 years in tech and sales. But I also, at the same time, run different organizations. I have a few startups, and some of you that are local here probably know me as well from the Hardy Foundation, where we connect IT experts or professionals from corporations with foster care kids and with displaced groups of kids and adults, etc. And for example, last year we had about 2,000 kids in IT mentoring programs and projects, which we run as not as charity but as projects. So we bring business into NGO and into charity. So I think this is the main thing, and I think we're going to talk more about it.
I'm sure you will tell us more. Brian, do you want to cover?
Yeah, dzień dobry, Krakow.
Nice.
My name is Brian. I'm an investment principal for Techstars based out of Berlin. We invest in 24 companies per year, 12 per batch. We've invested in a fantastic company from Krakow called ThinkQubit. Tomek is sitting up the back there, the CEO. I'm convinced that this will be one of the biggest companies to come out of Poland of all time. So looking forward to seeing that happen. I've been building companies for the past 10 years or so, either really early in organizations. So I was employee number 6 at Web Summit, which is this big technology conference that happens every year. and seen it grow from 300, people attending an event to a 40,000 person conference. I've been working with Techstars. I've been building my own companies. Yeah, in the past 2.5 years, I went back to Techstars. We've invested in 60 companies. We're about to make that 72, which is really, really exciting. And we still have 2 open slots for our upcoming program. So if there's any startups in the room
Brian is here to find
I'm
those.
here to find a final investment. Actually, hands up if you're building a startup and you're still in the pre-seed phase. Please come talk, say hello afterwards. I'd love to chat. So yeah, lovely to meet you all.
Thank you so much. So the panel is about global connections and how to build them. So I wonder, what's your approach towards building those relationships? I don't know, Anna, maybe you will tell us, because you left Krakow, to establish those connections, I believe. So please, let's start with you.
Absolutely. So indeed, I left Krakow, but I'm in some ways still connected, always finding back to Krakow. In my journey, I would say each relationship is different. And at MindMics, we are quite global in terms of the connections, from the perspective of the investments, building our Star Trek. We're building it in India. We have our biggest investor from China. We have a lot of connections across the US. And definitely, there is so many cultural differences, which for me is fascinating to learn about each of them, which is sometimes is very positive, but sometimes also is nerve-wracking, because when we don't understand what they're saying. So I would say for the building connections for me, especially across so many countries, it's an adventure, let's put it that way. But it's also very rewarding and necessary, actually, to bring the products to fruition. I'm not sure what would be the most useful and actionable. I would say just jumping in and seeing what happened, and that's what I did, going to places and seeing what would work. And similarly to the previous speaker, there is a lot of random connections that happened when we do that. Just an example, when I was in Cambridge, which there is a lot of startups, there's a lot of different things happening. Choosing to be in those places where there is that community of people ready to jump into the idea and help. So I would say, guys, you being here, it's already extremely important point. And you building that environment, that's something that is critical for the successful connection building across different communities and countries. And for me, was always gravitating toward those places. From Krakow, I first left to Warsaw and then jumped to Cambridge. But building in those places and surrounded by people like everyone here, that's the key to success, really. Because that critical mass is what makes it happen.
Okay, Martin, Simon, you're constantly helping startups to build those connections. So what type of approach you're taking, or what's the most common one? I know that there's several, but let's try to focus on the most effective one.
Well, when people come to me, they come to me for a reason. So basically, it's business, right? So I help getting traction. I help getting contracts, clients. And I always have this conversation where we look at quantity and quality of the connections we have. You can look at it even from an email perspective. You can send 20,000 emails and you can send 3 emails. But if the 3 emails are really quality ones, they're going to get you further, right? So probably Daphne had these situations where you had a lot of connections, but the ones that clicked had a story behind it. So this is what I always try to help with, is how do we connect and how do we communicate? So if I'm in an event like that, did I do my research? Do I even know who I want to meet and what do I want to talk about? Because just exchanging contacts on LinkedIn, this is cool, but I don't know if any of you really go back and browse through your network and look, who do you have? Some people have 5,000 connections, and they don't go back. They'll go back to their own network. So for me, it's always, what do I talk about? How do I communicate? And a little tip, which I found really helpful, someone gave it to me some time ago. When I connect with people, I always start with the message once we talk. So if I connect with Brian, I would just send a thank you, even when we speak. Hey, Brian, great connecting. Let's connect on this and this topic in the future. Because when I do come back to your profile, I'll remember what we spoke about a year ago. So, just to make it more practical and, to get conversions for some way, right? For an investment, partnership, or just a recommendation in the future.
Okay, Martin, what's your approach?
There's already so much good advice here, and I wanted to jump on a few things you said. For me, my network is not the number of LinkedIn connections I have, and I became very, very selective of even know about accepting them. For me, the network is not the people I know, because I know Barack Obama, but he doesn't know me. The point is not the people who know me, but my network are the people who know me and pick up the phone when I call, who reply to my message if I text them or send them an email. So don't go for quantity, go for quality in the connections. And I like the tip, when what I always do, if I get a connection request and it's not an SDR trying to sell me something, then I usually say, okay, it's interesting, I accept. And I always go back with the same message. Thank you for the connect request. Since we haven't been in touch before, may I ask what triggered it? And I start a conversation. And I got recently this, oh, is that AI generated? I said, no, stupid me typing it each and every time manually. Should I just copy it? Probably. But then you build the connection. And I had to know a lot about intercultural differences. I worked before I went to CEG Consult and starting my own business, I worked for 3 startups who made it from Germany to the world. The first one, I thought it would be international. We just went to neighboring European countries and the US. The next one, I had major partnerships in New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and South Africa, and EMEA. And my wife was mad at me because I had calls from the morning to the evening, but that's another story. Point here is that intercultural difference is a real thing. And you can try to learn all of that. It's hard. I think, first of all, be mindful. Connect head and your heart and listen to your heart if you're in a common conversation and you feel it, something is going awkward. Just be open about it. I always joke, like, I'm German, I'm blunt, I'm sorry. I'm not meant to offend you, talking to the Brits. Or, when I was working a lot with US, everything is awesome. Okay, so is it like German awesome or is it American awesome? And then I was in the UK and I said, awesome, I'm sorry, it's lovely, right? So understanding these nuances helps a lot to build connections, and these connections will convert, when you have a thing. And the last tip is, it doesn't matter what you want from them. The question is, what can you bring to the table? What makes you interesting for them? So don't, too often we are fully in our own world and we look from our perspective. If you want to build a connection, you need to be interested in the other person, and only then you can be successful. And if you want to go global, be careful. Is it you want to go global, or can you actually deliver anything to where you want to go?
Exactly. So what does it mean to have a global product or global offering? Can you elaborate on that? Like, what is global ready solution? Everyone.
Okay, I jump on it. So 2 companies I worked for. One was an SEO company, building a SEO platform. Well, we could go everywhere where Google is in the leading search engine. Well, that's not the world, luckily, but it's pretty dominant in the western part. And even the second company, we also were, connected very close to Google My Business in that case. But we also wanted to venture into Asia. So we we looked at the map and we went to Southeast Asia, and we learned that the ecosystem is completely different there. A lot of planets we drove were not relevant, and we had to review because there were other players like WeChat, like Line, like other things where the whole world there was a world next to Google. We were like, oh my God. So we need to adjust our product where we thought it would be global to really see, oh no, it's not really global. It's multinational, but not yet global.
Brian, I wonder how your accelerator is supporting the global connections of the startups within your programs.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to follow up on a bunch of these great points. There's 3 things that come to mind when I think about connections, right? So the first is, your network is your net worth, right? So like whether you're hiring people, whether you're trying to win business, whether you're looking for investment, it's who you know that can introduce you, that can give a warm introduction, that can, you know, just relieve some of the anxiousness about doing business together. It's about who you know that can connect those dots, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing would be say yes to more opportunities, right? So the more you turn up, the more you do things with different things, like coming to, I'm sure I'm going to invest in a company from Krakow. After this day, I'm positive, another one. So say yes to things, right? And then finally, something just following on from Martin is, you know, keep it human. People do business with people, right? At the end of the day, and you know, the other party needs to be interested if the partnership is going to work. So if you build an authentic human relationship with the other side, I think it's so important, and don't expect it to happen today. You know, like especially pre-seed startups, you can't work with large corporates today. Right? It's just not possible. You won't pass your security audits, right? You need to build relationships over time and build that up. Do a small little press release together. Convince them to let them use use their logo on your website for whatever reason, you know, even though it might not mean much, but it's going to give you social proof. Build it over time. And when the time is right, they know you, they trust you, they love you, and they want to support you. So yeah, that would be the kind of advice that we would give some of our early stage companies.
Okay. Are you able to share some success stories of your global expansions, like something that, you know, either some strategies that really worked out, or you know, some great advice that you have given to startups?
Could I stay on the mic for 2 seconds and I'll pass it over? There's like even the more important part is the like not successful seconds.
Yes, we will cover that in a minute. Actually,
you know,
but we can start with that if you're rather.
Oftentimes, companies try to expand globally before they're ready, right? And you really need to nail one market first, or one niche first, one type of customer first, right? And focus on a specific.
When to know that you are ready? Like, are there any metrics or any indicators that you you know, can tell you that okay, now is the right time?
You know, pull, right? You know, you literally have a certain audience knocking on your door and demanding that this happens now in their, you know.
So you should have those clients already from abroad knocking in before you start expansion, or is it more about proactively trying to, you know, show the product?
If you're pushing more than the market's pulling, you know, it's not the right time. And I think there's one thing, you know, WTF, what the focus. It's the most important thing for startups is to be focused, right? You have no resources. You're 2, 3 people, 5 people in a room. You're running out of money. You can't even think about launching in the US or launching in Germany or launching in, you know, whatever other country where you need to think about cultural differences, language differences, different marketing things. Stay focused, win your core audience first, and until you've really won that market, I wouldn't even think about global expansions just yet. When you're a Series B, Series C company, you can start to think we need to expand our offering into new geographies, right? But still then, look at N26 in a German example. They tried to launch in the US and they massively failed, even though they were a huge company and you know, really well funded. They just couldn't make it happen. But yeah.
Okay. Any failures from your stories?
So actually, before I go into the stories of also when we're talking about the global expansion, so I think there is a big difference between different models. Whether we're talking direct to consumer, I agree. Very focused, but then there's also business to business, and that's very different play. Especially as there's a lot of most of the successful companies, especially from Krakow, has the SaaS model, software as services, where it's actually our partner's job to figure it out, and on the local market how to commercialize it. And that's while for us the key, that's also part of the MindMics model. The primary model is the business to business, where we can provide those metrics, we can provide the access to our platform, and then they can speed up their commercialization, bringing those differentiation for them on their markets. So first, I wanted to make sure that it really depends on what is the business model. If it's direct to consumer, extremely difficult. Don't Some people like it. We did a little bit of it, but we very quickly back off to business, as a direct to consumer is extremely expensive, very difficult, and indeed it requires a lot of focus. Plus, also from the investor perspective, they have to see that you're starting with the big markets. So recently, actually, I heard the stories that even companies from Poland, they would first try to test the product in the US market, and then when it succeeded, then they would come back to Poland. In our case, we're focusing on the business to business, and we do it globally. We're trying to understand which markets have the most drive actually to introduce the health metrics. And sometimes it's not in the US because it's much more rigid, already quite developed. So it's quite fluid and goes back to who really wants to talk and who wants to pay. Number one, who wants to pay? I will go to any corner of the world if somebody will pay me for that. That's my startup approach.
Double down on those people. Right.
That's the most, easy, let's say, tip to follow. Martin, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I love the worst practice sharing better than the best practice sharing. I learned that 20 years ago from a fabulous gentleman in Hungary, actually, Dr. Bayer, who said to me, I'm bored from my peers sharing best practice because it's super hard to replicate those because sometimes they have just luck in the game, but it's much easier to avoid worst practices and not making the same mistake twice. One mistake I've seen is, number one, you do not go global. You pick one market and you focus WTF. And then you make sure that the market is actually interested in your product, because in your home market, you had the founder bonus, you had the local bonus because you're from the region. But if you're in another market, chances are they don't know you. You're not local. You're not the founder. And guess what? Maybe there's a local competitor. Talking about best practices, I spent some time in Axel Springer, German publishing house, with Axel Springer Polska, which is now Rainier Axel Springer, whatever. And I was in the international team working with these subsidiaries, and there was the strategy of Axel Springer headquarters to bring brands, digital markets, assets they brought in Germany to the Polish market, like Stepstone PL. I said, guys, you are aware that there are a massive Polish job portals already existing. So why do you think they were waiting for us coming there? What's our added value, right? And when I worked with the companies, everybody looks for the yes. I said, why the hell do you try to go from Europe to the yes? Yes, it's a huge market, but guess what? They are usually ahead of us. They are usually stronger competitors who get 10 times the funding. All companies I worked for, we always had this big American gorilla who had 4 times, 10 times the funding, and we need to win against them. So pick your battles and then consider what is your winning proposition. And on the positive side, we won against our way bigger competitor, strategic partnerships in Australia, because we were easier to work with. We connected better with head and heart with the folks. And we had a wonderful business relationship, making several millions over the years. And they said, look, the Americans came again trying to poach us. They are so arrogant and just throwing money on the table. They don't understand what's important in a relationship. So we win on the intercultural differences. And not all Americans are that way, but we were lucky that the culture in these competing company was that matter. So focus and look, maybe not always to where everybody goes, maybe look in the other directions. There might be nearly the same potential without the same level of competition. Some years ago, it was everybody wanted to go to China and Germany. Everybody burned millions on going to China. India at that time had just 900 billions, and China has 1 billion and they had 900 million. And India is way closer to our culture, even though it's different than China. And it's not a communist country, and you have less corruption. So why the hell is everybody going to China and not looking at the other market, which is literally next to it?
Simon, do you want to add?
Yes.
Yes.
Now
is the time.
Yeah. When I listened to those stories, it actually brought back some memories of a mentor of mine who once told me the best strategy for growth. He simply just said, you have to land and expand. So don't think about conquering the whole world right away. And I really love what you said, all of you, is that you have to start somewhere. And of course, when you are in a local market, you're in Poland, you know the language, you know the culture, you probably know some people. That means you already have trust. Once you start expanding here, you actually statistically are going you are going to find someone who lives in Germany or is connected with a mother company in Germany, in Switzerland, in Norway. And the funny thing is that you don't have to just fly to US and start selling there. It is a hard market. It is a really packed market. And I know a lot of companies that never made it to US, and they're really big because there are other countries that need the product. So think about it. Where can you go, or where you already have connections, or where can you find connections? So this is, again, looking at quality versus quantity. If I think about going to Norway and I just meet randomly someone from here, maybe I should start a conversation and then just start testing. And this is a fun fact, is that a lot of people are asking, how can I get meetings? How can I get sales right away? Don't do that. Just literally start connecting with people, but the ones that you really want to talk to, and just simply ask them, hey, Dominika, can I ask for your help? A lot of people on LinkedIn are going to reply, sure, how can I help you? Well, I wanted to get 7 minutes of your time because I'm running the startup and I will approach marketing directors in companies like yours. Can you give me feedback to what I do, to the problems I fix, and to my approach? And you're going to find that a lot of people will give you feedback. They don't have to buy from you. Statistically, some will, but they're going to give you feedback about your storyline, and that's how you're going to expand. And then you do the same thing in the next market, and in the next market, and the next market. And yeah, that would be the success story.
I love that, Simon. I want you to tell us more of this type of tips, like how to really approach and build that network. Because, you know, as you mentioned, the time is money. So we need to find those proper people and also select the proper strategies, right? So please provide your best, scenarios.
Can I jump into that? If you do that authentically, because what really stressed me out is people approaching me with, can I pick your brain? And then they land a pitch and try to sell me hard. So if you are using this approach, mean it, live it. Don't try to sell, or don't go into this call with, I'm trying to sell this person. Be honest and looking for feedback. If you're looking for feedback, if you're not looking for feedback, you're trying to sell, tell that you're trying to sell. More and more people trying to approach me and say, can we talk about a partnership? And I look at their profile, I say, you don't want to talk about a partnership. You want to sell me something, which is fair, but then don't tell yourself, call yourself partnership, because that's transactional versus collaborative. And the biggest value for me is authentic, being authentic. Do what you say what you do, and do what you say. I mix it up. You get it. So please, if you use that, don't try to growth hack. Don't try to trick yourself into it, because that will burn your network faster than you can build it.
So important.
Yeah.
Not enough. So customer interviews are the most important thing that you can do with your time as an early stage founder. Talking to customers, connecting with customers, understanding your customers. If a good customer interview rarely even mentions your company's name or what your company does, right? You're literally trying to understand your customer's behavior. And I think going super deep, building an authentic relationship, as you know, as Martin says, if you're trying to sell them something, tell them, right? You're going to blindside them otherwise, and they're going to be like, oh, well, that's just been a waste of 20 minutes of my time. I thought I was helping you. So yeah, be authentic, definitely.
Anna, do you want to add something?
About building relationships and connections, they take a lot of time, especially with bigger the player, longer it takes as well. But going back to the early days when I was building MindMics, for me it was also about giving to other people before I ask for anything. So in my case, you think always like, oh, I have nothing to give. But in my case, I would invite people who wanted to help me to the observatory, and I would show them the sky. I knew how to do that. I didn't know how to build the startups at that time, but I could show people the sky. Or in that way, this is how actually I was building those first relationships, not by asking for things, but, oh, you want to help me? So awesome, but what can I give you as well? And that was something that truly built the relationships with the first investors. Then also, funny story, the way how I was at Harvard, so Harvard doesn't have the good engineers that tell them that. They think that they are great at everything. But engineering is more at MIT. So I had to cross that get to the other side of Cambridge. And the way how I got there was I was training karate with those guys. And at some time they're telling me, oh, what are you up to? Like, in the first time I'm building the startup, oh, do you need an engineer? Oh, yes, I need mechanical engineer, I need electrical engineer. So for that common passions, this is the most powerful way to build those early relationships, that even few of them, let's say 3 or 5, that they can grow into many of them. But for me it is always giving before I take, as that's something that I find the most powerful.
Okay, well, what about meetups and events like that? Like, any tips on how to properly utilize those? Like, we were covering a bit that it's good to understand who will be there, but it's not that easy always, right? Because unfortunately, our poor foundation is not able to provide a proper app so that you can connect. So what are the tips to?
I can give a practical
yes,
tip.
Wonderful.
Don't assume you're gonna sell at an event like this. People don't buy when they're standing, literally. Have you ever made a big?
So you are the only ones who can buy something.
Yeah, you're buying.
Us,
No, but like, look at it. Look at events. If you want to do business, if you want to connect, look at it as a prospecting channel to filter best people, best connections, best ideas. And usually, what I do is I try to time myself. Because, like, there's a limited time for this type of event. And even if there are people that I really like and the conversation is great, after 20 minutes, I'm just saying, hey, this conversation is so good. Let's make it a lunch tomorrow. Why? Because, well, I'm probably losing a lot of other connections that I could get, quality connections. And of course, this person is cool, and hopefully the person likes me as well. I can already book a dedicated time where we can talk about business, partnerships, deeper connections. If they don't want to, well, they're not going to connect with me. That's it. But that's the thing. Try to talk to as many people as you can do and move, the step to next few days or a call, or just connect and go further with it. Make next steps.
This guy is tactical.
Yes.
I'm the bad guy, sorry.
He's being paid for that. Brian, do you have your tactics?
Yeah, just be nice. Just be nice to people.
There are plenty of nice people in that room.
Leave a good impression. Don't sell, teach, right? So if you leave someone with an amazing insight related to what you're doing, you've built a connection. It's like, wow, I learned this thing last night from someone, right? And they're telling other people about it. And then, it doesn't have to be, close in the moment, but just then, connect with them on LinkedIn, keep that relationship going, and authentically build a relationship over time.
I have to say, I'm very bad in being tactical. If I meet somebody interesting, I'm chatting the time away. I don't care. There I am, quality over quantity. Even though sometimes I say, okay, I didn't make the most of the event by talking to many people. There's this thing. There's a book from some Jacobs who's running Pavilion, the commercial community based originally from the US but now globally. Said he used the title "Kind People Finish First." And I think that's be nice, be kind, give, be ready to give and not expect to take immediately is something which definitely pays out in the mid-run. But like in everyday partnership, if you have to give 80% to get maybe 20% back, then stay away from that because that's a toxic relationship. And that's something coming back to what you said earlier about small startups trying to partner with larger companies. When I teach at the academy, the partnership managers, I say, don't try to punch above your weight, because it's unlikely that you as a pre-seed, seed, CSA, CSB company get the attention of Deloitte, Accenture, or Google even, unless you are really, really one of this really, really 1 in 1,000 unicorn, disruptive, cool, mega shit thing. Chances are that you're just not interesting for them. And that's my own experience. When I started my first startup, I was trying to get into business development partnerships and was ignored. And I was mad. Why do they ignore me? It hurted me. And when we built more momentum and brand, it was easier to connect. And a bit later, some years later, I realized one day that I started to ignore requests coming in. I was like, what was the moment when I turned into this asshole? And I realized I didn't. I just had limited resources. And I needed to make an educated choice who I invest these resources, who do I partner with. And these are the people who could deliver to me as much as I could deliver to them. And again, if you are very small and the other one is very big, it's very unlikely that you can deliver something to them. Even though they could open so many doors for you, there's nothing in for them. So that's, maybe start to foster relationships, but unless you happen to know the aunt or the uncle of somebody who's in the board of the other company, it's probably a very, very, very long shot, especially if you are that early in your own maturity.
Like, look at the most historic partnership that we've seen recently, right? OpenAI and Microsoft. They both had something that each other wanted, so it made sense.
Absolutely.
I think it really needs to be a two-way street in this sense. But yeah, I mean, startups, if your target customers are huge corporates and you don't have connections to the right people, start to think about that, right? Start to think about how do we start to form these right connections, get to the right events, get the right introductions to the right people, meet them on a human level, and then just like factor in a timeline that makes sense that you can actually do something meaningful together.
Or find a partner who has the relation, and find somebody who's not that big, maybe consultancies which are not Accenture but smaller, or whatever helps you, who do have those relations. And if you want to go global, or if you want to go international, not global, going into one market, try to find a partner who has this local trust, who knows the customer, so you could convince them. You convince one company with a value proposition, hopefully tested in your home market, why they should be interested in partnering with you. There should be business for them into it. And then they can bring you into their market and opening the doors to their customer base, instead of trying to hire some random country manager who hopefully is a master or jack of all trades and can open up a market all by herself or himself. It's very unlikely that it happens. So definitely this is a very strong way to find a local partner who can help you. Said it earlier, right? Local partners who know on the market is definitely a door opener.
Yes, I'm also doing this type of partnerships at Estimote. So we have like channel partners, reseller partners, and some other like developers, agencies, software houses that are cooperating with us. And I have to say that this is a really, really nice strategy for those that want to build the recognition, right? Because sometimes, the software agency or, the software house can have a really nice portfolio of big corporates, like in a given market. And by working with them, you can actually open your doors to those companies. So thank you so much for covering that. Any final tips? Because I know that, we are all about connections. You provided a lot of insights on how to properly build them today. So any final tips before we wrap up?
Maybe we can start here and go right. Foster your network, right? So there is a certain tacticality about it, right? There's important people that might not be able to move mountains for you today, but in the future they will. There's certain people that you want to hire that you can't afford to hire today, but that they'll be an amazing hire in the future. Drop them a message every now and again. Bring them out for a beer. Go drink a coffee together. Wish them a happy birthday, just like keep connections warm, because as I said, your network is your net worth, right? And the more you can leverage your network to achieve business success, the more successful you'll be.
Thank you. Simon?
Okay. Tactical strategy.
Consultants.
Yeah. Don't overpitch. So maybe this is one thing that I see, is that everyone is focused on their startup, their solution, not on the other side. So I always try to ask questions before I start, even if I need to pitch. Ask some questions, understand the other side, see if someone is even in the position to hear your pitch, because a lot of times they won't even understand it. So, if that's not the person, then you don't have to pitch. Just have a conversation, connect. That might be your connection that is going to be your champion. I don't know if you know that phrase, but this is a person that is going to get you into a corporation, get you into an organization. So
or get you to another person, right? But
Yes.
because this is also important that sometimes
Exactly.
you're building connections with various types of people, and I see that on the meetups all the time, right? And not necessarily this person is actually bringing becoming your customer or bringing you the money, right? But it's bringing you another connection, right? That is actually becoming that could potentially become your client.
And they won't do that because of your technology. They will do that because of you being a human. So, if you connect, if you ask a lot of questions, that's the thing. Like, we're used to talking and just, showing our side. But if you see that someone is listening to you, you feel good. So the other side will feel good if we start listening and asking good questions and then pitching a little bit and then seeing if we can do anything else, right? And they will connect. They will, bring you good network names, connections, etc. So.
Yes, networking, it's awkward and it's tough, so beer always helps.
That's why we have plenty. Not
and
that plenty.
we talk a lot about building relationships. To me, the biggest lessons over the last few years was finally learning to tell people like no. If I feel something that it's wrong, or the person is focusing on the wrong aspect or something I don't need, time is so valuable, and not every connection leads to the right place. So for me, the biggest power that I'm still mastering is to tell people no. And so I have more time to people that actually there could be something fruitful. So don't be shy to just walk away awkwardly, and try to find the next conversation if this doesn't work.
A lot of good tips. So being the fourth gave me a bit more time to think, but you said all the good stuff. Just wrapping it up from my perspective.
So that would be the best one.
I know, I hope so. No pressure, right? Number one, be kind. Number two, be kind also means say no. Don't ghost. Please don't ghost. Don't. Just be kind and say, look, thank you, but no. Because that also, keeps the relationship being honest. And last one, my main theme is every business is people business. Yes, you may build a partnership between companies, but you build it with people. If you leave the company or if your company doesn't move on, you still have the personal relationships. So value them and be careful of those. And very last one, challenging for me, try not to judge too much. Try to stay open-minded. Sometimes we need to be selective, but challenge yourself every once in a while. Was it okay to push back already because you saw the profile? Maybe it would have been a good conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder how are you selecting those profiles, because you said at the very beginning that you're very selective. So I wonder, on LinkedIn, that's what you said.
And
so
that's something where I really feel like sometimes is it okay, but then you give it a try and you get your. I was told that pretty juices help us to survive, but you need to be ready to regularly check on them, and if SDRs coming with a standard pitch LinkedIn message, then I don't have to give them a chance because I know what they're doing. But if somebody reaches out to me and says, even if he or she is an SDR and he says, hey, I saw what you do in the academy, I'm interested in learning more, then I have a reason to talk to this person because he or she wants to personally develop further. And then, of course, I'm open to help.
Can I just keep this panel going for just one more minute? Something Martin said I think is really important. Business is people driven, and I think that's more relevant today than ever before. Like, you see what LLMs are doing to the industry, right? How easy it is to build products nowadays. How easy it is to spin up marketing strategies. It's connections, it's go-to-market. It's how you think about your go-to-market strategy and leveraging those connections that's going to make all of the difference. The partnerships that you win. Like, for product teams, there's the barriers are lower to build world-class products now. It's easy. So now it's shifting back to connecting to the right people, solving their problems, and really going deep on that. So yeah.
I really feel connected to those like-minded individuals that, as strongly as I believe that the partnerships are crucial for our, growth, not only as, as individuals, but obviously as companies. Thank you so much for the insights. I definitely want to give at least one or two questions to the audience. So if anyone is interested in asking our panelists, like, feel free to ask now. I know that you are keen to go outside and connect. But if you like, then now it's the time.